Quiet on the set. All right, 1 minute. Let's hit the record. Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt. It's Valentine's Day. I hope you have a happy Valentine's Day. I'm sending you hugs virtually. And, I got up early today, Cousin Russ. Mr. Myrt and I prepared a Belgian waffle with strawberries for the little redheaded girl and her mom. They're leaving for Washington State on Saturday, and we're leaving probably Tuesday next week to get up to the Pacific Northwest. Okay, let's see what we've got to do on what's on our docket today. We had some interesting things happen, but I want to talk to you about Roots Tech. And I'll pull up their screen as soon as it comes live. There was a question on Facebook just as I was leaving the powder room. You have to do your makeup. It's all about looking good. Why isn't there a schedule over here at Roots Tech about what is transpiring? What's the schedule of the presentations, etc.? That's been something that Roots Tech was always like only the week before publishing, even when it was live. Of course, everything's recorded. It's all virtual. Not everything's recorded. There are a few live streams, including the keynotes, but don't panic. I know that you want to plan your schedule for what items you're going to view. And I will just tell you, as I would tell my good neighbor, Maria, I wish I could take Maria with me, Cousin Russ. You know what a great neighbor she is. Anyway, watch the live events because all the other presentations are recorded and will be available all year as they were this past year. That's my strategy, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so rootstech.org, if you go there to rootstech.org, it sends you over to familysearch.org/rootstech, and we have the registration link, which Cousin Russ has given you. It's all good. And another virtual event that I want you to be aware of, and it has to do with the 1950 census. The National Archives of the United States has announced, let me zoom in even more, that, in fact, they've already added a couple more events. They have a schedule of presentations on the 1950, and it says more sessions will be added. Stay tuned. When you click on these, then you get more details about each one. This is straight from the National Archives. The folks that have been able to access and digitize and run through the OCR and have worked on the index from the OCR and improving it. So they know their things about this. They know peculiarities. There's something to talk about as far as NGS and the National Archives. The National Archives published, and I didn't attend this live, but I watched it about 20 minutes later. They created a video, and NGS is encouraging genealogy societies in the United States to join with Family Search. And they described what's going to happen. And in doing that, have you heard, Cousin Russ, that they are transcribing every single field on the P1?
I had not heard that, but
that's what I heard.
Yeah, that could be. There was a couple that I missed. So
yeah, this one, that's when they told us about it. Now let's see if I can scroll to the page where you can see who was there. Okay. Yeah, there's Tom. Yeah, a bunch of folks from Family Search. And our good friend Cheryl Hudson Passy was the hostess with the mostest. She's pretty calm. Very good job here. And what they told us is that the main difference between the National Archives Index and the Family Search Index that will be from the digitized image and the artificial intelligence OCR that Ancestry does. There's a lot of partners going on here. The main difference is that the National Archives is a name, and theirs is the Family Search one that NGS is encouraging us all to volunteer with is every field across the line. Now, P1 is the basic form, but there are several editions of it. And it has to do with who gets to be spotlighted down below with additional questions. Because sometimes it's maybe row 3 and row 9 and row 12, and the next time it might be row 2, 8, and 22, just to randomize it. So that was really interesting because you might want to look for people by their age, approximately, right? Now, Family Search says they don't know how soon they're going to be able to roll out portions of this index. So it sounded to me like they're going to do what they did with the 1940, Russ. Remember how they did Rhode Island first because it was small?
Right.
And Delaware?
And I've heard that when they roll out, it will be by state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maria asked a good question.
Yeah.
We're indexing everything, but her question is every field searchable? Correct? With a question mark?
Well, that would make sense. Why index every field if you can't query just for that field?
I agree with you.
That's a lot of work. But it'll be pretty interesting. It will also be interesting to compare Ancestry's machine language index. Well, I don't think we're going to see anything of that until it's already improved upon by this 1950 census project. It's a community project.
I just looked at the form, the P1 form, and there's 38, not including the ABC columns.
Yeah, it's a lot of ways that we can search.
A lot of places for errors.
I hear you. You know, even though I'm retiring May 1st, when I had planned that we'd meet every night for about 2 weeks in April, just to talk about what we're finding in the census. Were there differences between what we could get from my heritage images, etc. In fact, they explained during this video, Family Search explained during this video how they all the big name folks, Find My Past, I don't know if Find My Past did it, but I know My Heritage, Ancestry, and Family Search had to physically pick up the hard drives and transport them to their computer centers. It'll be much faster this time because all the images are available on Amazon servers. I don't know if they have to pay for it. I don't know if you and I could also download a whole state if we wanted. I don't know the answer to that. But those are the types of things we will be discussing, those every evening events that we have in April once the 1950 goes live.
Dave asked you planned on meeting on the weekends as well.
Yep, we do. We do, because there's so much that happens you just don't know. And we will meet for at least an hour every time. It's going to be hard, but it's worth it because we are looking through the glass darkly now. Then on April 1st, we'll have a better understanding. And as each of us come together and we hold Census Genie in Zoom meeting format where you're all in, all your little chiclets will show up on the screen. We'll be able to answer each other's questions as we gather because, Randy may have done something that I didn't try yet. And a question would come up, or he could just plain share about what he learned. And sharing screen is not hard. It will probably be a little more cumbersome than our usual meetings because we try to keep things moving along. But that's the excitement of it, and the excitement of discovering things together. So kudos to NGS for producing this video and inviting Family Search to talk with them about what their plans are. So it isn't like the Ancestry/Family Search index, even for one state, will be available on day one.
Sherry asked a question that's related.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ancestry is already using this technology for some of the new collections that they are rolling out.
Probably. I have no idea. I honestly don't. I mean, it's just a little white-haired grandma behind this curtain here. I don't know everything. Okay. All right. What have we got? Oh, something new. Gosh, you poor guys from overseas. All this 1950, although some of you do have people to do research with on the 1950 US Census. Why am I taking you to genealogybargains.com? This is Thomas McKenty, and I'm doing this for two reasons. He found out that there's a Midwest library, we've been there, it's a genealogy library, has created a fillable form for the 1950 US Census schedule. Now, I'm doing this to let you know Thomas is the one that gave me this information because he's very prolific on Facebook, and that's where I happened to discover it. So I want to give him kudos for this. Now, P1 is just one of those original census forms. Cousin Russ says there's 38 some odd of items. Here's where you can click to get it. It's a PDF. And let's zoom in a whole lot so you can see it. Now, this is interesting because it is I can actually fill it out right now. This is very smart technology. However, in order to get all of the columns in, including the ABC ones, Cousin Russ, they had to limit it to 6 entries.
Yeah, but that's okay because you're doing it on an individual, not a family.
Well, I think that's
if you look at because I have the forms on my desk. If you scroll up to the top, it has name. So now it could be multiple people, but I'm just saying the form that they created for us is for an individual.
Yeah, I might say name and have it be Froman family or Lowell Froman family.
I would call it household.
Yeah. Oh, household. Because of the other people.
Correct. Yep.
See why we have Cousin Russ? He finishes my sentences and fills in the black holes of my. You printed them out now?
No, I already have them printed out because what I need to do is take that form and make an Excel spreadsheet on it. Because,
okay.
And I'm doing that for a very specific reason, because we've done this work on this 1950 census for a long time. I want to type out the field names so that I really understand what is the questions that are, and Frank or Dawn, I already put the link in the chat. Yeah. I want to type out the questions that are on the form so I better understand
okay.
what the fields are really asking for.
All right. So you printed it to make your own Excel worksheet.
Correct. But I will use the PDF file that you're sharing with us now.
Okay. Now, this is not what I would do. I know that in 1950, my grandmother was a lodger, I think. So it would need to have the whole household there, because either that's just an ordinary landlord whose home she was living in, or it could be the fan club. I want to see that household. And you're right, Cousin Russ. There was some discussion on Facebook about, why are we reverting to paper? Why are we filling this kind of a thing out? Do you see any reason to be filling this out? How does your brain work? Frank, our guy in Germany, you raised your hand.
For me, it's very simple, because it's typed and not written by hand. So I can simply make it more readable, and B, it's also maybe even able to be machine readable. So people with bad viewing, or who can view at all, can read it via some hardened software.
I totally get that. Thank you for those two thoughts. Now, anybody else have any thoughts? Diana?
Yeah, I have trouble if I try to print out the image, I can't read it. So I transcribe everything in every census because I have to type it. I don't write well anymore, but this will be easier to type onto the form, because I'll have the columns and headings, and I won't have to put age, whatever, and all those things that I have to explain in my current ones. My thought is, how am I going to get it into my Roots Magic? And I think it's going to be media attached. So
yeah, I think you'd attach the image, but when you click the download button, and I move this so our picture in Zoom doesn't cover it up, it's really tiny, but we have the ability under download, with your changes, save it, and without your changes. So Cousin Russ did the without your changes because he just wanted the column headings at this point. I'd probably make one for each of the households and print with changes, then come back to this, change it again for the next household. But what that does for me, that typing helps me assimilate information in my brain. You know how the old story is, we looked at a document that mentioned our ancestor, and we were looking for one answer to one question, the date he died. We weren't doing our medical family history yet, and we don't remember that Grandma Myrtle died of Lou Gehrig's disease, which she did. Sweet little lady. She had become very tiny by then. It depends on how your brain works. Cousin Russ, let me spotlight you, and what have you got?
Mickey says, I wonder if the PDF file would make such a search tool, fill out who should be there and any information you already know, and then check it off to find them in the related census.
You could theoretically do that. I agree. That's an interesting idea.
Now, what I would do, based on Mickey's suggestion, I don't know that I will, but I may, is to already know who I should find in what enumeration district, and I can guess who should be together in that household. So I might, in fact, do that. I can do that now because I've already identified most of the people I expect to find in the 1950 census. I can fill out that blank, and then when I can see the census on April 1st, before it's indexed and all that other stuff, I can see who should be together. I can almost tell based on the family, and because I've already looked at addresses.
Yeah.
So I should be able to find out who I should be able to find in that enumeration district the first time. Until she put that in the comments, my plan was to not fill out the form, but I have it there for those fan club members, the lodger people, because that person may not be in my database, but I may want to add them later.
Yeah. I'm thinking, this is because I am dead tired, that I don't want to fill anything out until I'm actually doing something with a census page that mentions a family member, because I might die between now and then. And if I fill some of this out, my kids who think of me as the genealogy guru in the family, they may think there's some validity to that when really it was research to be done. So be careful of what folder you put it in, if it's digital or if you print it out. Put it to be research, so it's clearly labeled that way. I've become more aware as time goes by of the challenges we have. We don't, here we are in the middle of this move, and Mr. Myrt's going to have a small surgical procedure. We weren't planning on that, so we've had to adjust. Life happens. It's nothing serious. It's pretty normal, but not a fun thing for him to have to go through.
Barbara just made a comment that I like to talk about it. She says, I've added 2 new categories for marital status: separated and never married. What I learned from previous census is that column has been there for many, many years of census records. I have a field that I collect called marriage status. So every time it appears in a census record, I put whatever's in that column on the various census. And I find that very helpful when looking at a female and knowing when she may change from being single or married or divorced. But I do it for everybody, including the baby who's not even a year old, because it's going to be on that census record. So I want to be consistent, but I find it very helpful. But I use an event or fact called marriage status, and whatever that column says in the various census records I record.
Interesting. That's part of the timeline.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's switch gears and talk to our Leave. Leave, let me pull up your page, your contribution for today. I just love it when people share their actual research, because that's our goal here, is to be doing some. As soon as it comes live, I'll pull it up on the screen. There we go. It's thinking about it. There we go.
Yes.
Okay. Old family photos portraying children. That's interesting. Oh,
Yes.
how precious is this? Oh, and apparently the mama cut the bangs.
You think so?
Yeah. That's funny. Oh my golly.
This is my father.
Oh, he is so cute.
He was born 95 years ago on this day.
Oh, happy birthday to your father.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, he's so cute.
He was the second of 2 boys, and he had a nickname which sounds much better in Norwegian than in English. It was little brother, Libben.
A term of endearment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is another picture of him below, and there he's called Blomster Ole. Ole is like John in English, so it's a very common name.
Yeah.
So if you did something with flowers, you were Blomster Ole.
Yeah.
His mother had she was a florist, and she also sold vegetables.
Oh, okay. And these are
And-
beautiful tulips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it must be quite special that he's holding these tulips. In my childhood, I can hardly remember having tulips at home. So my grandmother, she had what do you call it? Green a place to grow flowers.
Greenhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps she grew those there.
That is so neat. Now,
Mhm.
I've noticed he's wearing shorts, and I want to talk about that. It used to be in the 1800s, early 1900s, that the boys wore knickers, which meant not only shorts, but they had a little band and it pulled it in maybe just below their knees. And that was the style, but we've got an international audience. Tulips typically come up in the spring and last for about a week, because wherever I've lived, I planted tulips, daffodils, and little grape hyacinths. So this is in the spring. Oh no, these were grown in a greenhouse, you're saying?
I believe
Possibly.
so.
Yeah.
I hardly think she had it in her garden. I don't think she would have had the time to grow tulips in her garden at the same time as she had this shop. She
This
had
business,
13
yeah.
people working for her at the most.
Whoa. Well, and also, if my tulips here, and what you've been to my house and everything, if my tulips normally come up in April, what's April like in Norway? Is it still snowy?
Yeah, the snow is melting, and I can't plant anything in my garden before the 5th or 10th of May.
Yeah, yeah. We're sort of like that. We used to say in Virginia and Washington State, not till after Mother's Day in May. But up here in this high mountain valley of the Rockies at Salt Lake City, we don't plant anything. Well, tulips you plant in the fall and they come up in the spring. That's how you grow them. But to put the petunias and stuff out, you wouldn't do it until after the Memorial Day, like that Memorial Day weekend, the end of May. We have a very short growing season. That's a lot of tulips to trust your little kid to carry around. So do you have a tradition? This has to be later in the year because he's wearing shorts.
Yeah.
So those have to be greenhouse tulips. Lynn says in the Texas Panhandle, they plant only after the mesquite trees bud. Now I want to ask Frank, what about knickers or short shorts for boys? And when do they become men and can wear long pants in Germany? And we'll come back to Lieb in a minute.
It really depends, because in some parts of southern Germany, it's kind of traditional pants for a very long time.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's not that kind of nowadays. So
yeah,
I can remember that
you're too young.
Had one and wore it, I think, as I was around 7 or 8.
Yeah.
But I stopped at least when I was 10. So
yeah. Okay. So you're much younger than old Myrt here. Well, actually, almost everybody here is younger than old Myrt here. And we went over the border to Austria. So when we went in 95 and we walked into a small restaurant that had a bar, I guess they all do. You can buy beer at McDonald's at the drive-through in Germany, but I digress. Anyway, there were 3 men at the bar wearing lederhosen. And I thought, did they stage this just for the tourist benefits? It wasn't Disney World, I know that. But do you still see people wearing lederhosen, or only when it's some big festival? Tell me about that, Frank.
You actually do in the southern parts of Bavaria,
Yeah.
close to the Swiss and Austria border.
Yeah, let me pull up a picture. I mean, I literally saw 3 gentlemen wearing fancy embroidered lederhosen. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you do.
Oh, it's a miracle.
And some of these can go up in price by an enormous range.
Wow. Wow. There's a girl in lederhosen. Who knows? Okay.
Yeah, normally, as a woman, you don't wear lederhosen, but a dirndl.
Yeah, dirndl skirt.
For the traditional type of clothes, but normally it's not okay for women to wear lederhosen.
Yeah, I think that was just to sell the product. So dirndl skirts came in. I don't know if they've been in before, but they're gathered at the waist like that. All right, let's switch gears and talk with Hillary over there in England, but she lives in Wales. Historically, long before your time period, was there a like in the 1800s? Did the boys wear knickers, and when did they start wearing long pants? Maybe when they weren't playing in the mud. Maybe that's the distinction. I don't know.
I think it's gone out now, but I think there were it was more traditional to for the boys to wear shorts. Certainly at primary school, what we'd call primary school age, would probably be about up to the age of about 10 or 11, something like that. But then they'd go into the longer pants probably once they were more at what would have been a grammar school, or what we call a secondary school, whatever. So once they're in that older age group, then they would go to long trousers. But I think nowadays they tend to be other than perhaps for when in the summer when it's nice, they probably wear long trousers most of the time, the boys.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Anybody else on the panel want to jump in here? Randy, you're old. I don't think you wore lederhosen nor knickers, but do you have any pictures? Like Leaves point here is children.
I put some pictures on my blog on Birdless Wednesday, a number of them with me in short pants and at the bird bath and with the little pedal car and things like that. So
yeah.
You want me to go find one?
No, it's okay. Totally okay. So Leave, I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see, screen 2. All right. We've got this far, but you're talking about not just about your family, but about finding pictures of children and what was typical for children. So tell me more.
Yes, we could ask our brothers and sisters if they have got a family collection, if we haven't got anything ourselves.
Yeah.
I just spoke to somebody yesterday, and she didn't believe she had a picture of her mother. So I said, ask your brother. And the next thing is cousins.
Oh, yeah.
I have collections from 2 of my aunts because they have sent it to my mother to show her. These are my kids.
Yeah.
Norway is a long country. It's far from south to north.
Yes.
So we didn't see my aunt for 10, 15 years because it was too expensive to travel.
Yes.
But she sent a lot of photos.
That would be a good way that was the social media keeping in touch of its time period, wasn't it? The mail.
Yeah. And then we have the farm books.
We love those.
from the area that I research, Uppdal.
Mhm.
There are lots of pictures of marriages and funerals. I don't know if you do that or if they did that in the States.
Yes. Well,
but you can see the coffin and you see 50 people gather around the coffin, and it's both adults and children. So I have my grandfather born in 1883 and he's 10 years old.
mhm.
So that's the only picture I have of him at that age.
We do take a lot of pictures in the 20th century where it's the family finally got together, but not with the coffin. There have also been other pictures where they prop the coffin up. This is from the 1800s that I've seen, so that the deceased can be part of the picture. Or we've seen where obviously in a posed picture in a studio, or the photographer comes to the family, where they're holding the deceased up, especially if it's a child. And that's a little bit much. We don't do that now. We don't do that now per se. Wouldn't you say that's fair, guys? Diana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have pictures of my mother in her coffin, but we wouldn't think of propping her up or holding her.
I hear you. I hear you. Cynthia, do you have anything? You grew up, tell me about where your ancestors, like your grandparents, where did they live as children?
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Western Pennsylvania.
Okay. So do you have any pictures of children wearing those kind of knickers or anything from that time period?
No, but I'm an Army brat, so we didn't grow up with, I didn't know any of my family.
Oh, okay.
I knew my grandmother, my great grandmother. I knew her very well. We kind of connected.
Yeah.
And funny thing is, her name is Myrtle.
Great name. Great name.
Yeah, she was a favorite of mine, and I miss her a lot. But she was the only one I really knew. Her and my grandmother, my mother's mother, and then my great grandmother was my father's grandmother. Mm-hmm. They were the only ones that I knew. I didn't know any cousins or anything, so no. I do have photograph albums from my grandmother, but I haven't been through them, and there's nobody to tell me who they are.
Yeah, that's a sticky wicket, especially when some of the photos, in my grandmother Frances's photo album, are of a whole bunch of people her age, which I think was from school. But I digress. Let me pull in this picture of Randy with his first car. I got a kick out of this one. There's a shorts guy if I ever saw one. It's pretty spiffy looking. Look at that. Now, it wasn't in color this before. This little insignia tells me you took it over to MyHeritage, right?
Yeah, I would guess that the little car was red and not purplish.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the colors of my hat. May have been red. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no memory of this, of course.
Look at those cute knees. You have cute knees.
All of 5 years old, probably. Or 4
I
or 5,
love it.
Yeah.
And it does look like you. So I would have guessed that was you. Oh, that's fun. All right. Apparently we're into short shorts and looking forward to spring or something like that here in the Northern Hemisphere. Who did I not ask about short shorts for boys? I think we're good. Do we have any comments?
We're good.
Betty Lou has a comment that she has her dad's baby book and the pictures are really small. I've got to tell you something to help you out. And let's see if I can pull up my dad's things. In my dad's baby book are some, I've got to go to genealogy. I'll show you my filing system. Genealogy data, then go down to my maiden name, then go to my dad, And I got a lot of folders in here, of course, but let's see if I can find one of when he was a little boy. They were the pictures in his baby album, Betty Lou, were the size of a postage stamp. Yeah, let me just show you from this full page view. This is his baby book. And the book itself's not even 5x7. It's more like 4x6. When you take a photo with a smartphone or a macro lens on a digital camera, these tiny little photos can expand. And if you scan that, you wouldn't be able to zoom in as much and make it as large. So that's a helpful hint from old Myrt. Do that. Oh, I love these old things. So cool. I wish I could, let's see if I have one that shows the zoomed in. Probably not in this folder. Let's see if my brother was wearing shorts.
I have one of my dad when he was little.
You want to share your screen? I'll make
please.
it so that you may share screen. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to say all panelists, and that way we won't have too much blank space. All right, I'll stop my screen share and you can pull it up. Oh, we're so envious of that library. By the way, that picture was taken at my grandma Myrtle's house with our dad, my brother Mike, and my little sister in the on the little trike. Okay, it's coming in. Oh, how cute. Oh, that is absolutely darling.
I get my blonde hair naturally. He was a real towhead when he was little. But I love, we were talking about the pants, and these are long pants. They just pushed them up.
Ah, he looks so cute. And, you know, for girls, those kind of shoes were called Mary Janes. And I wore them till like I was about 8 or something like that.
So did I.
On Sunday. Yeah. But children did wear them. I do have a picture of my dad where his sister was about this age. And because I could zoom in, Betty Lou, I could tell that he sucked his thumb because it was kind of raw. You know, I should show it to you, but I don't know where it is. That is the cutest baby. These are so fun to share. See what you got us doing? Leave. All right. Thank you for sharing. And for there are some other suggestions in your blog post about where to look for pictures. Sometimes when you're compiling your own family history book, you want to use the real pictures of people. But sometimes to get the point across, you may have to use a picture of somebody else in a pair of lederhosen. My grandchildren don't know what lederhosen are, I'm pretty sure. But I would clearly label it. This is not our ancestor. This is just here so that you can see what lederhosen look like. Okay. All right, I've lost my Trello tab. Let's see if I can find it. Way cool.
The archive lady is in the audience, just so you know.
Oh, well, that's what's next. Let me share my screen. I am so proud of you. Melissa Lemaster Barker said on the 10th of February that the Houston County Legislative Body has renamed the Houston County Archives. It's now the Houston County Archives and Museum. That's because of you, Melissa. Wow. I was just blown away when I saw this. Incredible. Congratulations. They are very lucky to have you. And I've been there. I haven't been in it because we were all at the library that day. You were scanning. And we had to get on before the storms came. But
Melissa said it's been a long time coming. I've worked so hard to get this designation. Awesome.
We are so proud of you. Not that we had anything to do with it, but to get to receive something like that. Oh, look at the slate that they'd write on and the chalk. I do have one of these things in my collection, that old kind of desk. I never used it with an inkwell and a pen that you dipped every third letter. And it's, Melissa, forgive me, is this metal round thing, is that like a lunchbox? Let's get her up here. You don't have to have your mic on if you, I mean, your webcam on. There she is. Okay, I'm going to ask to unmute. Tell us a little more about this. Oh, there's a school bell. Okay, she may not have her.
She may not have the mic on.
Yeah, that's okay.
She can't talk.
Oh, okay. You have patrons. You actually have to work. Okay. Well, we're pretty excited. Those look like maybe a report card, different books. I learned to read on the I was gonna say Jack, was it Jack and Jill? That book is packed, so I don't know.
Dick and Jane.
Dick and Jane.
And
Yeah.
little sister
Dick,
Sally.
Jane and Sally.
Good memory, guys.
And
Dick.
Spot the dog.
Uh-huh. And they were wonderful. But I imagine one of these is a McGuffey's reader.
Jane says, don't forget Puff the cat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. That's how I learned to read. That's a US thing. Leave, did you all have a standard reading book that everybody in first grade learned to read with?
Yes. There was an author who made the books, I think, all through 1st to 7th grade.
Whoa.
And yeah.
Yeah, that really developed your vocabulary and pronunciation. Yeah, cool.
What I remember is one of the main kids, he was called Ula Ula. And that is, he was named after both his grandfathers.
Oh, okay. That's how it got that way. I love it. Oh, how fun. Yep. I actually do have an old Dick and Jane book that I bought to show my granddaughter, the little redheaded girl, how I learned to read. And yeah, it's old-timey cool stuff. I love it. And do you see that eraser? I had a pink eraser, but this is an older eraser. Do you see that? I don't know if I can zoom in. I think I can. I can. I think that's an eraser.
Chalk.
Yeah. Slide rule. Way cool. I love it. So Frank, what was the name of your books to help you learn to read? You're much younger and you're in Germany, but I'm very curious.
The one that really helped me was simple fairy tales and so on, because the one in our school was simply a complete new invention back then and very bad written. And they simply tried out this new method of schooling on us. And yeah, it didn't work at all.
Yeah. This is how my granddaughter learned. Mickey shared this, where you'd have different modules and you started with one and you'd work through them because they built just like our primers were. It would build on the vocabulary and the trick words in English and stuff like that. Diana,
those.
you had these?
I had those. SRA.
Really?
Yeah, through grade school.
Wow.
We were very advanced in Kansas.
Apparently. Well, again, you're younger than I am, so.
No, I'm not. I'm a year older.
See, I set it up so you'd have to admit it. Oh, silly old Myrt here. Yeah, I don't remember these kind of things, but I do remember flashcards so that I could, my mother had flashcards that she'd I'd have to say A and ah, the two sounds that a letter could make. Like C could be part of CH, or G could be giraffe or giggle, two completely different places in your mouth to pronounce that letter G. And I didn't understand what she was having me do till I wish she had said to me giggle and giraffe, because there's giggle's the hard one and giraffe is the soft one. But tricky. Interesting. Well, Melissa, thank you for that, and congratulations. There's another school bell, it looks like. Way marvelous. I love to spotlight when our friends have something good happen to them. All right, let's see. Betty Lou said SAR was just coming out when she was learning to read. Judy said that was a great way to learn. It taught you how to figure out words, made us all better spellers and readers. Frank, tell me about your grandma. That kind of old-timey school table, I guess, huh?
Yeah, she had one of those on her hayloft above the stables, and we don't know why at all. We just can assume that she got one from the little village school that was right across the street from where she lived. So as close to the school, which was literally just one room for the whole village.
Whoa, yes. One room schoolhouse, yep.
And yeah, I bet she simply kept it.
Well, you know, when they took down the stadium, you could buy the seats from the stadium. It's like a form of, memorabilia. And yeah. Now, in our main school, Laurelhurst Elementary School in Seattle, Washington, the main school rooms had regular newer tables with individual tables with a little cubby underneath. But the portables, which they still had last time I looked, but I haven't looked since about 2010 or 2011, a lot could have happened. They put these old-timey tables where the back of your chair was right up against the desk of the person behind you, but it doesn't do well when you're in 5th and 6th grade and you're this tall. I've been this tall since the end of 5th or the middle of 5th grade. I got a little bigger, a little smaller, now back to bigger again over the years. But, and that was just, I imagine they were scrambling to try to handle the fact that we're baby boomers. We're the baby boomer generation. And our numbers just they're just too much for the school. And they had to do something quick.
Yep.
All righty.
We want to go to Randy in case he has.
Randy. Hi, Randy. That's great. Let's pull that up. I like this post because it teaches a lesson. Let me pull it up. And I notice, Russ, that we're getting live transcript over there on the YouTube side as we speak. I turned off mine to see if it would stop or interfere or something, but it's live transcripting over there with I have no control over that. It's kind of cool. All right, Randy, take it away. Tell me what's going on here.
You gonna show my screen?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we are. Here we are.
So my handwriting is getting so bad, and it's more difficult to do, actually, A, making the letters, and B, reading it a month later. That I figured I'd better start doing things more digitally. So about once a month, I go find land deeds for my targets in the 52 ancestors. I'm in the 6th and 7th grandparents now, and in New England, everybody had land. Just unbelievable, amazing. this guy, David Bathrick, is one who didn't have a lot. But I wanted to capture all, and I did him last Friday in the 52 ancestors. So I don't give myself much time these days to do this. But I wanted to capture all of his land records and then highlight one or two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Family Search has the Massachusetts land records. They have about 30 some states with records like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can go there, and they got 5.76 million.
Oh my gosh!
In it, and so you go through, the process of finding the deed index for Worcester County, and
yep.
And then there's a deed index grantee, and this is early as the 1740s, 1750s.
Wow.
He's a B, so I take that first one, the one at the top, et cetera, and find the, find all the entries in the grantee index, and then you have to do it in the grantor index also.
Okay, so let's stop there, because Dear Myrtle's all about beginning genealogy.
Okay.
When I first encountered grantee, grantor, I didn't know. I just wanted a land record index, but this is what they did in those days. They had
the buyer, the grantor is the seller,
right,
or giver.
Mm-hmm. And then you found your deed.
And so in the index, then it tells you what volume and page number in that volume it is. And so then you have to find the, and so there's 620 images here. Let me go find which one to look at.
So I'm going to zoom in on this one while you're figuring that out. So this is directly from microfilm.
114.
Okay. And we'll go to 114. Okay. 114. Now, that doesn't mean it's the 114th page in the book.
Nope.
Because at the beginning, let's just show here, at the beginning, you've got the microfilm number, all of this. You'll see this, those of you who've been doing microfilm research know that they have this at the beginning. Oh, I just love how quickly this moves. I'm so glad we're not in dial-up anymore. Okay, one, what was it?
114.
Okay. And I typed that here rather than trying to count. Oh, no.
You have to hit enter.
Oh, okay. Not the plus. Oh, because when I hit the little arrow here, it only went to the next image, not 114.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Well, somebody else is going to do that, I imagine. Okay, let's look at it. All right.
114, Bathrick is on the left side and down just below where you are.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Right there. And David has two items. So David from Thomas Forbush in 1748 and David from Stephen Maynard in 1793. And so you can see there, and it's in Westboro and the Thomas Forbush one, and that's where he was.
Mm-hmm.
It's volume 23, page 338.
So then you went back to the beginning.
Go back to Worcester.
Okay.
Shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
And scroll down to find deeds, volume 23, 24 probably. I use find to do this.
Okay, that's possible. So the deeds are volume 23 you need, that's what you need?
Yeah.
It's going to be way down here. Volume 1.
Almost there, they are, 23 and 24.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. And here there's 607 and you want 338. I'm sorry, maybe not 338. It's page 338 and I can't remember what the image is.
Well, it'll be a couple.
179. Image 179.
179.
I've done the shortcuts.
Okay. So it took you a lot longer to do this than.
Not much.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty good at guessing now.
You are, yeah. Okay, so there's 337.
So
so
on the
this
right
is,
side, yeah,
yes.
and it goes to the next page, but down at the bottom, there's Forbush to Bathrick. And so
which you see here.
I can transcribe that. And this is when So he, you know, he buys this land for 120 pounds in 48?
Yep.
He's a young man. He's 26 years old. He's just married, got kids coming.
Mm-hmm.
So this, you know, this helps me.
So this was a matter of meets and bounds, not because this is in New England.
It's all meets and bounds. Yeah.
So that means it's from somebody's oak tree to the left fork of the such and such stream, that kind of thing.
Bounded by Joseph Forbush and John Smith and whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Northerly, westerly, easterly, southerly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And partly on a highway sometimes.
Yeah. Partly on a highway, I see.
Sometimes
And then
it mentions
turning.
a pond or a river. And consequently, you might be able to narrow down where it was. I've come close on this guy.
Wow.
Just from the clues here.
Yeah, turning southerly and running 40 rods. That's what they used to measure them with.
Yep.
It was a chain, 40 rods in length to a tree marked, which I doubt the tree's still there, and bound something by Thomas.
Land of Thomas Forbush.
Oh yeah, land. That's the word, land.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And then it goes on to the next page, and that's where we use this little next.
So the handwriting, you know, isn't always wonderful. But this time period, I can usually figure it out. The exception is when it's too light, and I you know, it's impossible to read sometimes.
We are getting,
considering all these were done by a clerk with a fountain pen, dipping it, or a quill, dipping it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is done in the 1740s, probably. I doubt that they, you know, retranscribed them.
Yeah, they didn't have Parker T-ball jotters yet.
And notice the first word there is easterly.
E-A-S.
The long S, T-E-R-L-Y. They use the long S in the middle of words.
Yeah.
To the first has the long S. Bound also their long S. And then the short S is on the end of acres there on the first.
Yeah.
One. So
oh my gosh.
You'll learn these things. This is they usually use Y-E for ye, for you, or the for the thorn, but they used a Y when the clerk wrote this. He didn't use a thorn. The thorn is kind of more like the Greek lambda, lowercase lambda.
And so as we get to the bottom,
so you get to the bottom and it gives you the date, you know, land 1747, some date 1747, and then the guy's signature.
That does look like different writing than who wrote the clerk.
Well, the registrar.
He's writing it.
The registrar's writing his.
Oh, that they came before him,
clerk.
And he's attesting to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it's recorded a different day than it's executed. You know.
Right. Takes a while. Wow.
And
good
sometimes,
job.
Sometimes the recording date is years after the execution date because they never registered it.
Well,
and then dad dies, you got to go register his land so you can sell it. And consequently, you get a lot of this, you know, after the fact. Thomas Jones says he searches 50 years after.
Yes. The interesting thing, there are some states, and I'm thinking South Carolina is the state, but I could be wrong, but it was a Southern Atlantic kind of place where if the land was subdivided among family members and paid for, or I paid to inherit or paid for my grandmother's property, as long as it was still in the family, it didn't have to be recorded. And there are cases where it's like 100 years or 50 years easily.
Yep, easily. Yeah, and that's what these folks did. All these guys had 6, 7, 8, 10 kids, and they would start piecemealing the land off to the sons, especially, not always the daughters.
Mhm.
The daughters always got something, and so I've seen, and then the youngest son would often get the last piece of the land, which included half the house, and then he would support mom and dad.
That
back
was
to
the
the blog
agreement.
post, I'll show you what I do with all this.
Okay, so now
Okay.
we know how you got to it.
So that's one
And
thing.
y-
And
and you've
scroll way
shown
down
us.
past 4 or 5 things here.
Now we're to the deed.
Yeah.
But now
And
you
so
do
now,
this.
so I put it comes into my downloads folder. And so as record image.jpg, so I need to change the file name. And so I know what it is. My system is the name, the year, what it is, from who, where, what volume, what page, and what image number. That's my file name convention. I put that in the Bathrick folder. I put that in the David Bathrick folder on my computer. And then I downloaded the other deed images and put them all in my David Bathrick family folder. And there's an image of my downloaded deed files further down here.
Okay.
Okay, no big deal. And after doing all that, then I updated my word processor table. I started making word processor tables for these things. So click on the next one.
Okay, just a second. It's here.
There we go. Yeah. And so this is all the deeds I collected for David Bathrick. Okay. And then volume 23, page 338, 339 is what we saw when we went searching. And so I list the grantee and the grantor and the date. I don't put in the whole date and where it was. And if I download it, I put X's in that column. And if I abstract it or transcribe it, I put AB for abstract or transcribe for TR in that column. So I've only abstracted that first one.
Got it.
But I could do all the others. There's what, nine of them there. And it would give me a fuller picture. May not be a complete picture, but some deeds were never registered. But still, and it look in the grantor index list there from David to Solomon Bathrick, Jonathan Bathrick, and then Solomon again. And the time frames are all 1786, 1792, 1822. David died in 1794, I think it was, maybe 95. So he is, trying to deal with the kids here. He had a probate, but it was intestate, and there wasn't much, and his wife survived him 8 or 9 years. So but that's how I do it now, to avoid the handwriting and avoid, because I have 37 pieces of paper here for different ancestors with lists like this, but in handwriting I can't read anymore. So
I hear you.
But just to beat the age problem, I do this now, and then I file this table. That's a word table. File this word table in the David Bathrick folder.
Makes perfect sense. You have hit the nail on the head for Mickey Manier. She says, thank you for this segment. I have a family farm that was divided among 10 children and ran as a cooperative farm for years and years. And yes, the youngest son got the last piece and the house to take care of his mother.
Yep.
Lee says,
and you have to go through all of this, the land, the probate, the vital records if you have them, the church books, the Bibles, to try and just work out the basics of the family organization and where they lived and what they did. It's a puzzle, and we all love the puzzle, finding the records is the excitement, and having to do the abstracting and transcription. Back on the on the blog post, if you go back there,
Yeah.
I did list the abstract I wrote and the source citation.
Yeah, you typically do it in red
I do.
to distinguish it.
And I put my source citations in purple.
Which is up above.
Yeah.
Now, is this an adaptation from the actual, let's see if I've got where it says information. Are you using any of this text?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just kind of adding discursive notes. That's what I tend to do. Cousin Russ is very diligent at using using citations and so that it'll print out perfectly. I'm not. I'm glad if I attach this to the description of the image. And
I put the abstract or a transcription in the notes for the deed in the profile for the person. So my abstract for David Bathrick is in his profile in Roots Magic for the deed, for this specific deed.
I want to tell you something. For years and years, Bertie Holzclaw taught the land records class at Samford University summer school. It wasn't their thing, it was IGHR, I forget, Institute for Genealogical and Historical Research. And I had the privilege after she passed away, we were going to the funeral. We got there a few days earlier. And I was given one of her research notebooks to look at. And in those days, we did research notebooks. We didn't do so much digital stuff. Everything was in page protectors. Every page was in a page protector. And what shocked me was that she did not put the original of the land record or whatever document she had found about the ancestor in that section of the notebook. She put her transcript on it. And then on the reverse side in that same folder or same sheet protector, she put her copy of the original. And you had to, because a lot of them were those awful wet paper copies. You didn't have so much digital stuff in those days.
I have about a 16-inch stack of the wet paper copies. They're dry now, of course, but
yeah,
from 25 to 15 years ago. Yeah.
Somebody wants to say something here. Okay.
Dean asked, what's the difference in abstract and transcription? And so I put in the chat, the abstract is a summary of the important content. For deeds, the important content is who, what, when, where, and how, basically. And how much. And so if you go back to the blog post and look at the abstract, you'll see that I captured that. I'm not sure it's the perfect form, but you give a date, you do who and where he's from, and what his status is. In this case, a gentleman of Westboro, and there were 3 tracts of land in Westboro, and he sold it for $120 in bills of credit to David Bathrick, a joiner of Westboro, and there were 10.5 acres, 8 acres, and then 2 acres, and then 1 acre, and they're roughly, but northerly on Cedar Swamp, and so that's probably still there. And the deed was recorded on 10 May 1748. So that's the important stuff. The transcription is the word for word copying, writing down amanuensis of the actual deed. I do it line by line, even though it's in a clerk's book. That I've done over 600 transcriptions now of deeds, probate records, Revolutionary War pension files, things like that, over time in the amanuensis Monday series, which I do 1 a week on Mondays. Today's is another deed for Nathan Brigham. So
we get it.
I'm not done with this project. I still need to source and enter into Roots Magic and abstract all those deeds on my table list. I spent a couple hours doing this part of it and wrote it down so that other people might see it and maybe be an example, good or bad. But that's kind of what I do.
Betty Lou has a question for you. If the record is available online, is it worth downloading it and getting rid of the old oversized wet copies?
Yeah, definitely. I don't look at the wet copies. They're over there in a stack and I can't magnify them good and you know.
Well, and by now, the wet paper copies,
they fade.
yeah, well, it literally, the type of copying that was done in those days put a whole background and everything, not just the letters, and they just sat on the surface of the paper and they came filtering off like dust. Filtering's not the word. They were coming off the paper like dust, like gray dust. So, and even if they were in page protectors, if you moved the page, turn it, you would see that the friction between the page protector and the wet paper copy, it was just an old style. It's what we had at the time. It was way better than trying to take notes.
Yeah.
Looking at an original.
Diana asked, how much file space does it take? The deed, each page is about 1.5 megabytes at this point.
Yeah.
For this set. The table in Word was 15 kilobytes, you know.
Yeah, small.
Small.
The thing I like about this blog post is I've seen over the past couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of questions about, do I want to go into these records? This blog post does something that I think each of us needs to do in our own way, but document how we do things in our genealogy programs or outside of our genealogy programs. Document how we do stuff. And I'm saying that because I want to, and I am preparing my digital files, my genealogy files, so someone else can pick it up. And for the most part, any record that I use from Ancestry or Family Search or any place else, I have a document that documents how I do stuff.
Your
not
workflow.
Everything. No, it's not well,
Could be. Guess this is a workflow as I see it.
Then it's a workflow. I'll put you, but how do I handle a land record or a land deed? How do I handle a record group? And this is part of looking at, we talked about the 1950 census fields. That's why I do that. I rip that document apart so I know what's there. Then I make a determination what I want to capture. Randy has done that for the land deeds. He's documented what he does with it, including citations and all of that other. I do very similar, not the detail and excellent work that Randy does, but I do it for me. I happen to use a different tool. I happen to use Evernote, and I'm doing a research for one of my students. I have everything I've done in Evernote, and I've documented in the file. So because I'm going to hand that file off to the gentleman's daughter at some point in time. So I don't have to tell them how I did stuff. And I have a notebook that tells exactly how I did stuff. Do I keep research log? Absolutely. I absolutely have a research log. It's built into my program. I look at the screen for a profile, and I have my research log. I have my to-do list all staring me in the face as I'm working on that profile.
I like it. To me, it's a to-do list, not only on the actual image, but like one of the things you do when you encounter a new record group, Cousin Russ, is you read everything you can gather about that record group. Why was it created? That informs your understanding of the benefits of that record group and maybe the limitations of the record group. He's saying absolutely, guys, but he's muted.
No, absolutely. One of my students, I wrote a book. I gave it to my student in the class. It was all on purpose. And his first comment that he wrote in, and he gave me a copy of his comments, was on a citation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the citation was as a footnote, but the shock for me was that he would look at a citation and make a comment on it to be the very first thing. But my point is that I have been using this record group for a long time. It has its benefits, but his questions say, I don't need to share that record group with someone else. For me, I use it, but for the family, they don't care because I can't track exactly where that record came from. It's one of the indexes that Ancestry has that I now have privatized anything that I take from that record group except the name and a birth date.
Okay, so we do each develop our styles. I know how I am. You think you're working on land records, and then something happens and life intervenes. And when you come back to it, you're like, I'm like this. Okay. But if you have a description of your workflow, and some people are using, what are you using? Evernote to keep track of things like that?
I use Evernote. OneNote does similar things.
Yeah. Or you could use a Google document, or because then it could be accessed anywhere from any computer. So could your Evernote and your OneNote.
Evernote's everything. I have it on my phone.
Yeah, that's good. But you need a quick refresher as to, okay, what was that? Remember when you set up your scanning workstation up on the dining room table, Cousin Russ? And so it wasn't your normal computer setup, and there was a certain way you processed that. And if I hadn't done it for a few years, it takes a while. In fact, that reminds me of Miss Peggy's comment. She posted that she gave a live presentation on Saturday, and she had forgotten her normal checklist that she used in her mind of, you set up the computer projector, you bring your cables. What she had forgotten was to bring extra batteries. They've been sitting around getting corroded for the last 2 years in her pointer, the pointer that she uses, that not only moves to the next slide because it is hooked up by USB to her laptop, but also can highlight certain things up on the projection screen. And so she didn't have her backup batteries, her extra batteries. So that was like in the physical world, what she normally did. And we've all done, I mean, she gives, 80 or 90 different presentations a year, even before we had COVID and started doing it virtually. There are just processes we set up to be the most efficient way to accomplish a task. And I think as a point of information, her battery died a few screens into her presentation anyway. So
that was a wonderful conversation.
Oh, yeah. Other presenters were saying, and isn't it?
All been there.
We've all been there where somebody else decides they will plug in your equipment for you. No, don't touch it. And I consider it justifiable homicide. Somebody had actually had clicked the little buttons on top of the computer projector, a $400 to $1,200 machine, depending on how long a person's had it. And somebody's pushing buttons on it. That's just inexcusable. But anyway, I do remember that once I had to substitute for a gentleman from Genealogy Bank. That would be Tom Kemp. And who set up the computer for me? Because the thing started 15 minutes later. Who set up my computer and projector? Dick Eastman. I did trust him because I had to like do the intro and, you know, otherwise. So we all substitute for each other all the time when we've got each other's back. All right. I got to wind this thing up. Let me switch to sharing screen again. Great discussions today. I want to tell you a little bit more about my schedule and have it be in the recording. Number one, please do join my Dear Myrtle Facebook group because one of the things I like to do is curate things that come across my desk during the week. Sometimes we bring them up on Mondays with Myrt, sometimes we don't. So you want to join my Dear Myrtle Facebook group if you haven't already. I am quite sure that during this move if I am ready to hit the sack, I will sit there in bed and I'll start looking at stuff to see what's going on in the world of genealogy. And I will share the good points with you. And I have no doubt that I will continue to do that. However, the next 2 Mondays, we will not be having Mondays with Myrt because Mr. Myrt and I are moving. Now we've already have 2 pods on their way to Seattle. And we have a new one that was just delivered to be filled today, 16-foot pods. It takes a lot when you have, one was all of Mr. Myrt's books. The second one was all of Mr. Myrt's shop tools. That one was slightly overweight. Now we're getting to what furniture we've decided to take and have not parted out or given to the local Deseret Industries, which is like Goodwill. And so that's where we are as far as the schedule. I need to have this time off. As much as I love getting together and talking with you, I know we're going to be in an extended stay hotel for a while till we actually locate the house we want to buy. I know most of the neighborhoods, but Mr. Myrt doesn't, and we're going to go check out neighborhoods and go with a realtor, etc. Okay. Something to tell you about. Remember that we are continuing to do Census Genie. In March, it's weekly, but here is our latest video where we talk about the what is the OCR indexing, what can we do now, what is the one-step tool, and about other places to go get educational information to help get you up to speed. And certainly you can go to my blog to the Census Genie tab. Let me pull that one up. All right. And any breaking news, apparently, why is it saying I must have spelled Dear Myrtle wrong? There we go. There we go. Here's my blog site, and there's Census Genie. Okay. And that's where we have links to everything we have discussed that came out from the National Archives, etc., in our Census Genie meetings, and what videos we watched but didn't record because they were covered by copyright, as well as what we said in our own part of our meetings that we did record, where we're trying to decipher things. Okay, is that about it, Cousin Russ?
There's a petition.
Oh dear, where is that petition thing?
I just put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I've been really jealous of Graham Walter over there in England. He's been able to get appointments to go to his National Archives there. Our National Archives reading rooms, the one, this main one, and actually this is not the researcher's entrance, this is the museum side has, anyway, that was a long sentence. Our reading rooms were only open at this location, Archives 1 in DC, for just barely a week or two in November, and then they closed it again. Now, businesses are open, restaurants are open, things like that. I know they're busy behind the scenes, but I would, if you are inclined, I would like to encourage you to sign this petition. We're having a new archivist here in the United States. And so this petition is addressed by Jessica Taylor, who is the president of Legacy Tree Genealogists. They are professional researchers here in the United States, although she's currently living overseas with her family. Still active, but there are people whose very livelihoods depend on this. There are some full-time researchers that cannot finish books because of this. The National Archives is the repository, and that includes its field branches and the presidential libraries. They're closed to researchers. This is how we keep track of our government. This is where places like the US Census Bureau deposit their records. That's why we have the 1950 side 1 showing up on microfilm, now being digitized, but not side 2 because the National Archives did not elect to microfilm those. And they've since thrown away the originals of the 1950. Please consider signing that. Thank you. Was that okay, Russ?
Yep.
Okay.
Notice a number of people have signed it. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, folks, I guess there's nothing left to say.
Well, there's one more thing. One more thing.
Good. What?
Don't forget that this recording will be on YouTube now because we recorded it live. We'll double check it, but it should be available to us now as opposed to waiting.
Yeah, I've been watching it without the volume turned on. That's how I know about closed captioning being live. We don't have to wait an hour anyway. Okay, folks, nothing left to say, but thank you to the panelists for being here, for the insights that you've provided, the things that you've shared. Thank you, attendees, for also contributing to the conversation. That's what we do. We don't do lectures. This is a talk show, and we do it. It's kind of fun. Yes, thank you. See you all in a couple of weeks. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.
Close live YouTube.
I don't know how to do that yet. Stop live stream. Okay.